Hello, my darlings, and welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Ash, and this is the space where you and I get to journey this wild thing called life together. So pull up a cozy seat, get something tasty to drink, because today we are exploring how we can tackle and handle the tough moments in life and finding ways to get through them without feeling like we have to minimize or diminish our struggles by comparing them to others. If you're going through a tough time, or if you know someone who is, I hope this video brings you some comfort and that the practical tips provided help you to move forward with a little more peace and a lot more understanding. When I worked as a full-time chaplain in the hospital, I oftentimes met with people who were going through the absolute worst moments and experiences of their lives. While coming alongside these patients, their family members, their friends, and sometimes even the staff that I worked with, I would often hear things like, well, at least I'm not going through something that X, Y, and Z person is experiencing. Or they would say, there are worse things happening in the world. I always found this to be really interesting because even though it can be helpful to keep a broad perspective, these thought patterns often invalidated their own pain and suffering. And it got me wondering if you have ever said these types of things to yourself, saying these platitudes when life has really taken you out by the knees. Your struggles are your own, and they are just as real and just as important as anyone else's. It doesn't matter if someone else's circumstances or situation or experiences seem bigger or worse. What you are going through still matters. And it's okay and acceptable to be feeling everything that you're feeling. One thing I have learned while being within the realm of so much personal and professional suffering is that everyone's threshold for anguish is different. And where that threshold sits does not indicate your strength or your weakness. It's merely a marker for where life has brought you. If you currently find yourself in a tough position or in a hard place, here are 5 tips that could help you through the natural progression and process of being in a tough position. Keep in mind that some of these tips might feel impossible for where you're currently sitting, and that's okay. But these tips and these practices are always available to you whenever you start to feel ready and strong enough to move forward. First, right off the bat, give yourself permission to feel whatever it is that you're feeling. It's okay to be disappointed, to be upset, to be sad, frustrated, to feel hollow. Feel those emotions without judgment and do your best not to respond to these emotions in harmful or unhelpful actions. Suppressing or ignoring how you feel only makes things more difficult in the long run. Step number 2, self-compassion. Self-compassion involves treating yourself with kindness, care, and understanding. Speak kindly to yourself and recognize that you deserve empathy, attention, gentleness, and consideration too. Focus on prioritizing your own well-being by protecting your energy and your time. This can be a great opportunity to set healthy boundaries. Tip 3, reframe your thoughts. When you catch yourself thinking, why is this happening to me? Switch the mindset from why me to what can I learn in this experience? How can I grow through what is happening? This is a really hard question to answer and to ask yourself, and it can be even more difficult in the throes of deep grief, shock, or agony. So don't ask these questions if you're not really ready or in a place to answer them, but this is really important in helping you to reframe the situation. In which in turn, when you reframe what's going on from, again, that kind of victim, why is this happening, to an empowered, what can I make myself out of this? It helps tremendously in the healing journey because it helps to give a purpose to the struggle. Tip number 4, take small steps. When everything feels overwhelming, start with the small and the slow. Think of manageable steps that you can take. What's one thing you can do today that can help move you forward, even just a little bit? It could be pumping the brakes on doom scrolling, setting a 5-minute timer, and looking out your window, watching the world pass by. Possibly it's drinking an entire glass of water and eating some peanut butter honey toast. Perhaps it's picking up the phone and calling, not texting your best friend, and asking them to come over and just sit with you. Taking these little steps forward, showing up just a little bit for yourself, makes it easier to do that again and again and again through this journey. And there will be moments where these small actions feel impossible, and then there are moments where these small actions feel like they're not enough and you can do more. You get to choose that for yourself. But I do encourage you to take the steps forward to help yourself along the journey. Along those lines, tip number 5 is all about not being afraid to ask for help. You don't have to go through things alone, especially hard things. Whether it's talking to a trusted friend, seeking professional help, or simply sharing how you feel with someone who's willing to listen, reaching out can make all the difference. And taking this step requires a great deal of courage. But you, my darling, are courageous and worthy of being supported. Don't limit yourself. For those of you who are here with me and are not going through a hard time, but know someone who is, I understand the helplessness of being unsure of how to support those around you who are. So here are 4 tips for you. 4 ways on how to approach and show up and come alongside the people that you care about who might need you most right now. The most important thing, hands down, is to listen. Let them express how they're feeling, what they experienced, what they're going through, without interrupting and definitely without trying to provide solutions. It's a super common response to throw out platitudes. Things like, God won't give you more than you can handle, or everything happens for a reason. Saying things like, they're in a better place where there are plenty of fish in the sea. And the time-old classic, time heals all wounds. Oftentimes we do this thinking that it might help to flip the perspective of what's happening, or to ease the suffering of what a person is going through. Or sometimes we do it to fill the silence because we feel ill-equipped in that moment to address the deep emotions that are coming up, both the person that you're sitting with and what's being brought up and stirred within you. What it really does, though, is it invalidates the feelings, the pain, the suffering, and the experience of the person that you're with. This is their journey, and what they really need is the peace of your presence. And I promise you that is enough. Sometimes another great way to show support is through action. If they're going through something that's overwhelming, offer to help in specific ways or by taking on specific tasks. Whether it's running errands, cooking a meal, or just sitting with them so they're not alone. One time I was visiting with a neighbor and she happened to mention feeling overwhelmed by the loads and loads of laundry that she was getting behind on because she was caring for her newborn and her 3-year-old. And so in that afternoon that we were visiting, I just did her laundry. At first, she was kind of resistant because we all feel this innate desire to not need help, to be able to handle everything on their own. And after that initial kind of awkwardness, when she realized I'm going to keep doing laundry, she was much more receptive and incredibly grateful. I actually could physically see the weight lifting off of her because she didn't have to worry about getting all the laundry, the hours of laundry done, while she was trying to take care of what was most important. Like I said, honestly, most of the time, especially women, when you offer help, their instinct is to say no and to not accept it. And so sometimes the best thing to do is to just do the thing. There is one caveat to this, and something that's really important to be said, is before you step in and you do the one thing, you need to make sure that you know your coworker, your neighbor, your friend, your family member well enough to know that if this help is actually helping them or will just cause more stress or overwhelm in the situation. This takes a very big element of consideration and knowledge of the person in the midst of the struggle. So make sure to tune into your emotional and to your situational awareness before making any actions. The third tip, encourage this person that you love so much to engage and act upon self-care. Encouraging this kind of behavior, even in a small way, during a tough time for someone else, that requires a gentle, empathic approach that respects their feelings and capacities. This could be something like suggesting they take a hot bath, offering to go for a short walk or a car ride together, maybe putting on their favorite movie for you guys to enjoy and to help take their mind off of things. Remember to keep it manageable and don't overwhelm them with options. It is ideal to emphasize that self-care is not selfish. It's about recharging, building resilience, and it's essential to healing. A few years ago, I happened to be in town where I spent a lot of my youth, and I had mentioned meeting up with a girlfriend of mine who had recently gone through the devastating murder of her mother. And instead of recommending that we go and get a coffee or go to a restaurant where it would be very busy and chaotic, instead we went to a local park, which I knew that she loved, and we walked around for hours. And then I just listened. And even though this wasn't a big thing, even though it was just walking around, by the end of that I could tell that she was feeling lighter because she had gotten outside in nature and she was also able to express what she was going through. These are simple, simple things. It doesn't have to be monumental. It doesn't have to be life-changing in ways that we often imagine. Sometimes, actually most of the time, the little things are the big things. Okay, and step number 4, or tip number 4, sometimes people need space to process things on their own. If they're not ready to talk or to be social, respect their boundaries. Let them know that you're there for them by giving them the space to heal at their own pace. Acknowledging this need that they have shows that you're listening and that you're supportive, which is the most important thing during their time of need. Going through a tough time can feel incredibly isolating, and it's important to remember that your emotions are valid and that you deserve support and kindness, both from yourself and from others. Life seems to always throw a lot at us, but it's how we respond, take steps forward, and lean on those we care about the most and who care about us the most that can make all the difference. If you found this helpful, thank you for sticking around and showing yourself the empathy that you deserve, because you, my darling, are worthy of a beautifully full life of love and compassion. Until next time, I'm holding you in the light.